Who says you can't? You do. By Daniel Shiriak. Chapter 16. Life's ultimate duo, the spirit and its visions. Passion, the voice of your spirit. If there is no passion in your life, then have you really lived? Find your passion, whatever it may be. Become it and let it become you, and you will find great things happen for you, to you and because of you. Alan Armstrong. During a chat with a friend of mine, I was shocked to hear that he was not happy after achieving something massive on his wants list. He was an international DJ and radio show host. His songs were making the top of charts and he was playing in the biggest nightclubs in the world. One of his dreams was to play in Europe, which he had just achieved before I saw him. As he walked into the room to greet me, he said it was not what was I expected. He told me that he went back to his hotel room after the show and wondered whether he even wanted to pursue a music career. The show went well, the people were great, and everything was in place. So what was happening? After a long conversation, we got to the bottom of it, and he walked out with a breakthrough. Throughout his career, he had focused on what he thought was his passion, to play music. I asked him this question: if I gave you all your equipment on a deserted island, how long do you think you would last playing music all alone? He replied, probably a few hours. Then I asked another question. But your passion is to play music, isn't it? He replied, yes. So I don't know why I would only last that long. And I don't know what is making me unhappy. I turned to him and said, you're with your music. When he focused on other people's emotions, when they listened to his music, rather than just his own desire, he experienced a key turning point in his career. We all want to know how to add value to this world, the people around us and ourselves. Doing things for others will always create more meaning in your life. The people who have been the most influential and successful were those who were committed to doing this. It's that drive within us that sparks the feeling that is far too great to be restricted by words. Once you put a lot of energy toward a passionate life, you enter the realm of the elite. The thought of it fills you with emotions you have never experienced, keeps you up at night and wakes you up in the morning. It is enforced and embedded so deep within you that it surely becomes the basis of your decision. It will guide you over hurdles, find inspiration once gone unnoticed, pick you up when you fall, and be the air you breathe. You can definitely feel the difference when you enter a room with someone who has passion and someone who does not. In whatever area of life, you will notice the ones with a strong passion are those who are running far beyond what others think is the finish line. When everyone else says it's too hard or impossible, then they are the ones that prove them wrong. If you imagine, you can achieve it. If you dream it, you can become it. William Arthur Ward. I hear people tell me they have a vision. So I ask what it is and they say things like to buy that home. Now that's great, but what's after that? See, a passion is an invisible force that consumes your whole life and creates vision after vision. A true passion sees no end but only everlasting growth. A passion would be to provide for your children, to inspire people to be the best they can be, to add value to the world, to help others, to provide a service like no one else, or to do something that you love. Being the best you can be is another great one. If there's any passion that is at the heart of every person, it is to exude that greatness that lies deep within them. We must prove our greatness to ourselves, because if we don't, we are the one who has to answer the question why. We all know that we have a lot more to give, but we just need to let that inner person speak. A great way to drag that spirit out and begin to steer it is to give as many reasons as you can why you want to do something. We put all these material wants in front of us and call them visions, yet sometimes we struggle to achieve them. The reason is that we forget to build the foundation. We must search deeper and ask why we want what we do. Whatever it is, you need to build as many reasons as possible why you are doing what you are doing, and let them really align themselves with who you are deep down. That's how you remain at full strength. I personally do not let material things drive me because I know they will flow through my passion. I have a clear indication of what I want, but then I let my spirit guide me. If we don't do it this way, we get caught up in greed and we will never be fulfilled. You will notice that you continue to come back to that point of emptiness and then wonder why you and even bothered in the first place. A true passion does not just appear bright and strong one day, it evolves over time. I can't tell you what your passion in life is. No one but you can do that. This is one of the biggest challenges I see today. It seems when the thought of trying to discover our true passion or calling comes up, it causes us to worry and become stressed. All that does is cloud and suffocate your spirit. As we all know, stress is a major contributor to our despair, so it is definitely to discover the blueprint of our greatness hidden under the colic of social life that become self-beliefs. We must unwrap the paper and then the gift will be displayed. That college is all the limitations such as hate, fear, self-doubt, judgment, lack of self-love, and many more that restrict us from seeing our true path. Lack of passion in life is truly a grave issue in society. I have coached pupils searching for their passion in life more than any other challenge. What I am about to tell you will probably change your perception of your passion forever. Our whole life we seem to be in search of this one passion that we think will win us fulfillment, and the concept is usually based around a career. We believe that without finding what it is, we are hopeless. Well, guess what? No one who is passionate is only passionate about one thing. I would consider myself a passionate person now, but I did not wait to find out what career I wanted to do in order to decide that. In all honesty, I don't even consider educating and inspiring people a career. Rather, it is a passion that flowed from first being passionate in many other areas of life. I am passionate about being a great person, treating everyone as equals, sustaining the quality of nature, my body, my family, people in general, and so on. I have many passions in life. I did not just wake up one day knowing what my career was and begin being a passionate person, nor did any of the vastly successful people I have met on my journey. If you don't practice being passionate in all the other areas of your life, then you will never discover your true potential. There is one great thing that all successes in any era have in common. It calls for no debate. It requires unconditional love, and it is the pinnacle of all emotions. It is the passion for life itself. When you have passion for every part of your life, things fall into place. All successful people have one thing in common. They are all addicted to life. The enormity of visualization. Formulate and stamp indelibly on your mind a mental picture of yourself as succeeding. Hold this picture tenaciously. Never permit it to fade. Your mind will seek to develop the picture. Do not build up obstacles in your imagination. Norman Vincent Peale. Pupils continually visualize throughout their day. There are very few who embrace the present, but many who envision the past or the future. The issue is that it's of no benefit because those visions usually result in stress or worry. The same people have no idea how much power their visions have to become reality, and that they cause them to experience the same emotions they so often complain about. As we previously read about neuroplasticity, constant repetition is effective in shaping who we are becoming. People get all spooked when they hear the word meditation, but they are missing out on one of the most powerful gifts mankind has. We are led to believe that when meditating, we are thinking of nothing. Let me assure you, when you are thinking of nothing, you are still thinking because you are thinking of nothing. It's an opportunity to take ourselves away from what we see with our eyes, away from space and time. Start using those thoughts to really create a feeling of success right now. Why do we close our eyes when we pray, when we cry, when we kiss, when we dream? Because the most beautiful things in our life are not seen but felt only by the heart, by unknown. Taking the time out for visualization is one tool that really successful people have used, even if they don't call it that. Meditation, prayer, and imagining all are all the same thing. Successful people allocate time to completely focus on what they want, not what they don't want. I would get so strongly into visualization that the hairs on the back of my neck would stand up because what I saw in my mind was just as real as if I were really there. Sure enough, they do happen. Dr. Andrew Newberg conducted a study to check the neural behavior and physical responses to meditation by Tibetan monks and prayer by Franciscan nuns. The psychological changes in the brain and discoveries were outstanding. Dr. Newberg found that the front part of the brain, which is usually involved in focusing and concentration, is more active during meditation. There was, however, a great decrease in activity in the parietal lobe. The parietal area of the brain is responsible for giving us a sense of our orientation in space and time. He hypothesized that blocking all sensory and cognitive input into this area during meditation results in the sense of no space and no time. When this part of the brain, which weaves sensory data into a feeling of where the self ends, is deprived of sensory input through an individual's focus on inward concentration, it cannot do its job of finding the border between the self and the world. Dr. Newberg described how this affects consciousness. The brain had no choice. It perceived the self to be endless, as one with all of creation, and this felt utterly real. The absorption of the self into something larger is not the result of emotional fabrication or wishful thinking. It springs from neurological events, as when the orientation area goes dark. Other experiments have also been performed, including those by Richard Davidson. He is a professor of psychology and psychiatry at the University of Wisconsin and has led experiments in cooperation with the Dalai Lama on effects of meditation on the brain. His results suggest that long-term or short-term practice of meditation results in different levels of activity in brain regions associated with such qualities. as attention, anxiety, depression, fear, anger, and the ability of the body to heal itself. These functional changes may be caused by changes in the physical structure of the brain. With enough focus, your mind does not know whether what you are thinking about is real right now or not. When we daydream or close our eyes and drift off, we feel the same emotions as if we are actually living our dream. It feels so real because for that brief moment, your mind does not know the difference. The more energy we put forward towards something, the stronger influence it has on our life. It's the same with what we focus on in our mind. That's the power of realization. Those very images you choose to see in your mind on a daily basis, be they beneficial or not, are being attracted to your life. That's why things we don't want keep showing up, because we continually think about them. If we direct our mental images to what we want, it causes not just ourselves but everything else to surrender to manifestation. Ordinary people believe only in the possible. Extraordinary people visualize not what is possible or probable, but rather what is impossible. And by visualizing the impossible, they begin to see it as possible. Dr. Jerry Carter Scott. I don't care what you want to call it. Closing your eyes, directing all your focus to one area as if you were really there, feeling the emotions and even imagining how you would physically react is going to enhance your life. I used to sit in my room, close my eyes and drift off. In that moment, I felt as if I could hear people telling me how much I did help them. I felt as if I already had a better relationship with my family. These feelings have since become reality. I would feel the warmth in a person's hand when they shook mine, or a hug when my nephew, just to inspire my day. I would do it anywhere and anytime I had the chance. The power of visualization has a weird way of speeding up time toward those things you desire. Things start to happen quicker, and I guess that's how you see some people's success and wonder how they achieved things in such a short amount of time. The more you visualize the qualities of life and want what you want, the stronger your vision becomes. It will be a way of life and a means to take the appropriate action. You can also cut time when something distressing displays itself by simply closing your eyes and drifting away to a better place for that short time. When you start practicing this, it might seem difficult to stay focused, but the more energy you put forward toward it, the better you become at it. Even when you drift off but your eyes closed, it is crucial to redirect toward things you appreciate or an experience that would immediately make you happy. Have you ever noticed that the trip back from a journey always seems shorter? Why is that? The reason is that we have been there before. If we go somewhere in our mind, feel it, see it, and be it, then we obtain it at a much faster pace. If you don't believe that your mind is the basis of your creation, then ask yourself these questions. Why do we have a mind, and what is its purpose? Use it. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Albert Einstein. No words I write could amount to the certainty I have in visualization. It is the key and foundation to all your dreams and is the basis for your decisions and reactions toward life experiences. Be different from the rest and give yourself this wonderful opportunity. When doing this, it is crucial to feel every detail of the image, from the smallest to the largest. Embrace the power and the emotion of it, and it will be the foundation of creating the life you desire. Visualization experiment. If you have ever played basketball or none other a basketball player personally, you would know that many players choke when it's time to take a free throw. Even some of the best basketball players on the planet have this mental block. No one questions their ability to play the game, but they have trouble making those shots, and they will be the first to admit it's all in their mind. Dr. Jude Biasito at the University of Chicago reported about a study that was conducted to determine the effects of visualization on the free throw performance of basketball players. First, the athletes were tested to determine their free throw proficiency. They were then randomly assigned to one of three experimental groups. The first went to the gym every day for 1 hour and practiced free throws. The second group also went to the gym, but instead of physically practicing, they were told to write down and simply visualize themselves successfully shooting. The third group did nothing. In fact, they were instructed to forget about basketball. At the end of 30 days, the three groups were again tested to determine their free throw proficiency. The players who had not practiced at all showed no improvement in performance. Many in that group actually exhibited a drop. Those who had physically practiced 1 hour each day showed a performance increase of 24%. Here's the clincher: the visualization group, by merely imagining themselves successfully shooting free throws, also improved 24%. Question mark. It does not matter what area of life you apply this to. If you run a perfect scenario over and over in your mind with the inclusion of sight, sound, and smell, performance is sure to improve. Visualizing and taking physical action is a combination that is unbeatable. Training your mind gives us a clear vision that we may know where to stand and what to stand for. Because unless we stand for something, we shall fall for anything. Peter Marshall. Task: visualize your updated appreciation list. Be still and make sure you are stationary. Once you fully focus and do it a few times, you won't want to stop. You will discover a shift in focus toward great things in life rather than things that are of no benefit. The quality of your whole life will improve. Start with focusing on breathing in and out through your nose from the tip of your nostrils. Follow the breath all the way until it flows back out. When you inhale, draw the air down to your stomach and back out slowly through your nose. You can count up to 7 when exhaling to slow down the process. Do this until you feel light and weightless. Second, a euphoric state should arise in your mind. Then start visualizing. I personally did this at night when I was relaxed, but still read my list in the morning. This addition to your daily ritual will transform your life, but you have to commit to it. Don't just do it for 3 days. Stop and then email me saying it does not work. It's an ongoing process, but results will be measurable immediately, especially in the way you feel. Third, you can visualize at any time during the day and listen to music that inspires you is also a great addiction. Your visions will start to play out around you. Awareness will rise and you will notice things that are relevant to your success that once went unnoticed. Our mind is the canvas on which we create, and imagination is its tool. Things once thought of as just as doing will turn into a vision so strong that your passion will see to its becoming real. That's the end of chapter 16, page 218 of the book. Now move to fourth step: steer your relationship. Chapter 17. Rocky, docked, or sailing smooth. A loving relationship is one in which the loved one is free to be himself, to laugh with him, but never at me, to cry with me but never because of me, to love life, to love himself, to love being loved. Such a relationship is based upon freedom and can never grow in a jealous heart. A loving relationship is one in which the loved one is free to be himself, to laugh with me but never at me, to cry with me but never because of me, to love life, to love himself, to love being loved. Such a relationship is based upon freedom and can never grow in jealous heart. Leo F. Buscaglia. Relationship plays such a vital role in our daily life, so I knew had to cover this topic. I went around to relationship girlfriend, asked me what he should do. This one is very difficult because trying to get the truth out of someone is a battle in itself. Some people will defend their partner because they don't want to portray them as a villain. Sometimes they don't mention their own faults or they attempt to put all the blame on the other person. There seems to be a lot of attacking and defending on either side, and it's also hard to get the truth out because many believe love is the sole reason they should be with their partner. I believe saying, but I love him or her does not offer a strong enough reason on its own to stay with someone. I am sure we are quite aware that we can fall in love many times and on occasion with those who are not right for us. It does not mean they are not right as people. It just means they are not right for us. We get sucked in by attraction and other things initially that get a good hold on us. But then every date with the person feels like a blind date because we just don't know what is going to happen next. I sat this guy down and I asked this question: what do you love about her and why are you with her? This was his answer: she makes me laugh. She keeps me on my toes. I am really attracted to her. She keeps me strong when I feel weak. She gets along well with my family. I love her and I can communicate with her. I went on to ask him what he loves about himself, and he gave me only 3 answers and then struggled. How can we confidently give the best of ourselves if we are not even sure what we can offer? How can we ever know what we want when we don't even know who we are? We must be the great person we wish to see in a partner, or else we will sadly never find happiness. A couple of years ago, on Valentine's Day, my mother asked me who I was going out for dinner with. I let her know that I was going by myself, but assured her I was not crazy. I wanted to go on a date with me and asked what type of person I am, what I want out of my life, and what's important to me. I am so thrilled I did, because that night brought up a lot of answers and created many opportunities for change. What regard to the first question, I asked the guy, what do you love about her? I asked the guy, what do you love about her and why are you with her? I explained that every single answer had me or I in it and was nothing short of selfish. It seems that our relationships start to become all about our own desires rather than being a paired force and helping each other grow. So I said to him, instead of saying she makes me laugh, how about her amazing sense of humor? So when she is not there to make you laugh on a particular occasion, it's okay, because she is still funny and you will always recognize that. Your partner has her own life as well. It's not her full-time job to fulfill you. That's your own job. Instead of saying she gets along well with my family, how about she is family oriented? Can you notice the huge difference this small shift in attitude could have on relationship? You must focus on your partner's qualities, not only on what they can offer you. So many relationships start becoming all about what one person wants and one person taking control of the situation. You have to shift your focus to the other person and why you are really with them, because it's going to make you appreciate them on a completely different level. Acknowledging their great assets is the pillar that will hold you both up when challenges arise. Let's face it, as long as we are alive, there are going to be some cracks. But if it's all about you, then you can bet it's not going to hold up to well. Consider how hard it is to change yourself, and you will understand what little chance you have in trying to change others. Another major breaking point I discovered through talking to many people about the topic and through my own experiences is that we believe our partner fills gaps within us that we don't believe we can fill ourselves. This seems to be the biggest unconscious issue many face. When that person is not there to fill that part up for whatever reason, we start fighting, begin to doubt, and think crumble. Being an unconscious issue means we are not really aware that this is the case, but it warrants these deeper questions. Are you really in love with who they are, or are you in love with what you think they fulfill in you that you don't believe you can fulfill yourself? Did you have a clear indication of what you wanted out of a life partner when you met them? Did you really get to know them, or did you get sucked in solely by the attraction bug? At the end of the day, no one can fulfill anything that you don't really have access to. When we truly believe that we need a person to live, it puts strain on the relationship. We make ourselves believe that if they are not around, we are out of whack, can't function, are unable to get by or do anything in our life. I am here to tell you now that everything you think you need, you already have. It might just be qualities you are not yet using. Be with someone because you truly want them, not because you feel you need them or have to have them. An expectation from others can really be an invitation for disappointment. When we expect things to happen and also believe that the other person has to do things, it prevents us from appreciating the great things they do for us. Realistically, they don't have to do anything, but if they do, it should be because they want to, not because they feel like they have to. If you have to keep asking them to do something and then they eventually do it, but you just feel it's not coming from their heart, then it's only because you made them do it. No real satisfaction should be drawn from that, and to be honest, maybe that person is not really your greatest match. If they are right for you, things just happen. You should not feel like you are continually forcing them to. We must be at peace with ourselves and actually want that person for who they really are. You must respect they also have a life that should be lived. A partner's role is to help the other person with their aspirations and add as much value as they possibly can to their life. A healthy relationship is evident when both people seem to bring the best out of each other and shine simultaneously. A life partner is not about battling each other, but overcoming life's challenges together. Here are 3 ways to create a more fulfilling relationship. Command your own emotions, not your partner's. If you don't do this, your relationship won't stand a chance. Set up smelling visions together. If you don't have something to look forward to, you will burn out. Sometimes people are still together, but it does not mean their relationship is alive. What do you want your relationship to be like? Question mark. How can you make it that way? What can you both do to bring that about? What would you like to achieve together? Create a strategy plan that you both work to, to get those desired visions and outcomes. If you must let go, the jump is so frightening between where I am and where I want to be. Because of all I may become, I will close my eyes and leave. Marry Annie Radmacher. Our happiness as individuals will almost always be based on the decisions we make, or the ones we want to make, but are not following through. People experience unhappiness because the expectations they have set for their life have not been met. This goes for our finances, emotional state, and predominantly for our relationship. It really does come down to what you want out of your life. If you know in your heart that your current relationship is something you don't wish to participate in any longer, you must feed your truth. There are many people who turn around after leaving their relationship and say, I really want it back. It may be the fifth time they have attempted to end it, but every time the same story is repeated. The question must then be asked, do they want it back, or do they fear the unknown because they have not yet built the inner strength to let it go? By probing deeper, the answers I have heard over and over again are that they really want to get far away from the whole situation and have the feeling of being free from it. They just remind themselves of why they can't, not how they can. When they accept that can't is a choice, they automatically realize they can. My truth was telling me for so long that I did not want to be in my past relationship, and I would definitely have a lot more money if I saved $1 for every time I ignored it. I would continually think, this person is not right for me. Get out and run. I would then get down on my knees and say, God just gave me a sign. Give me a sign. The funny thing was that asking for a sign was actually the sign itself. The signs are right there. We see them all day, and that deep voice inside will always be there to remind us. I now believe that if it's an I don't know, then it's a no. That goes for business, relationship, and everything else. Unless I absolutely certain it's a no-go zone. It's a no-go zone. That's not to say I can't make myself certain, or that I need to know instantaneously, but I won't fully commit my life to it until I am. A sad thing in life is that sometimes you meet someone who means a lot to you, only to find out in the end it was never bound to be, and you just have to let go. Anand, we are also able to build that certainty when we want to leave a partner. If you have ever been in a relationship where you were not fulfilled and finally gained the courage to leave, you would know that there comes a point when the pain is just too strong and the grass is too green on the other side. Just like anything in life, a shift of emotion caused you to act rapidly, and you finally left. You hit that point in your life when you said, that's it. I have had enough. That day came when you refused to continue living someone else's life. I'm sure you can also became frustrated with trying to take control over that life, their life, because that's not what it's about. It's not our duty to attempt to turn someone into us, because that will surely create a clash. And essentially, who gives us the right to do that anyway? The reason we become involved with someone is so we can both add different elements to each other's life. Never attempt to make the other person live your life. They should respect yours and you should respect theirs. Like I said, If they are right for you, then things are not that difficult. You don't continually force them and they don't feel like they have to do something. They just do it. When you attempt to control someone else's life, it only reflects the lack of control you have over your own. Most of the time, we drive ourselves crazy trying to figure out what our partner is thinking. Why did they do that? Why did they hurt me? Or why are they acting that way? How about you? In doing this, we neglect to take accountability for our own life and realize it's never what they have done, it's what we allow them to do. Once we take charge, the decisions to follow will bring the outcome we deeply desire. You must take charge of your own emotions and mental state. They are who they are, but you must be responsible for you and start making decisions accordingly. If they are not willing to make change, then you must. And in my opinion, a person can only give you as much love as they find within themselves. In determining whether someone is a life partner or not, I think it's crucial that your core values do not clash with their values. At the end of the day, our values are the things we live by. I was speaking to a client of mine who always wanted to travel and eventually have children, but her partner's belief was that traveling was a waste of money and he did not want to have kids. Obviously, not really knowing what she wanted out of life partner when she met him, she did not probe those major details. By the time she found out, she had already built a love for him. He was not willing to compromise and he did not want her to travel on her own. The things this guy valued more in his life were obviously quite different from hers. So I told this woman to write down everything she wanted to do or accomplish in her life and add up whether his traits would allow them to go together. After she did the exercise, she discovered that she had put on hold nearly the whole list for him. She needed to take accountability for that and stop blaming him for her inaction. He was not wrong. It's just not what he wanted out of his life. In order for her to live her life, she needed to leave him. After a 5 years relationship, she ended it. She was hurting for a while and assured me it was not easy, but it was the best decision she ever made. She finally visited her family overseas and started her own business. She also promised me that she would never be with another guy who did not want to have children. That has now made the top of her must list. She has created clarity and learned from her past experience, and that's how we go and attract what we want. Thank you very much for listening. This is at the page or number 229. A rocky docked or sailing smooth. Page 229. Don't lose yourself just because you found somebody. If the things we value most are not aligned with our partner, how can we ever expect our relationship to be successful? Anytime you experience conflict with someone, it's because they have trodden on the things you value most in your life. No one likes the values they live by or what they stand for to be trampled on or questioned. Our values are our life because we use them as the sole decider of our choices. If you have ever been uncertain when making a decision, it's because you were still unsure of what you valued most in that situation. Many people settle for someone who have vastly different values than them and who stands for completely different things. The importance of something to them is lesser or greater than it is to their partners. Is it any wonder why these relationships continue to clash? Attraction. Attraction. Is it any wonder? Wealth, attraction, wealth, social status, loneliness, and emptiness are just a few factors that will make us hang around. I highly advise putting someone's core values at the top of your list if you want a fulfilling relationship. If you are unhappy in your relationship now because of this clash and you know the person will never change, not that they have to or even should, then it's time to reassess and make a decision. Furthermore, people confuse just with love. People obsess over someone they just met or think they like someone they don't even really know. We then crave attention from them, and being ignored by the only person you want attention from is one of the worst feelings. We have all felt it, but when you look deep enough, you realize that the person you are really craving attention from is yourself. I think when we feel vulnerable to someone else's attention, it's life telling us that we are not giving ourselves enough. It's usually a build-up of self-neglect that gets up to such a needy stage, and in a sense, that person was the wake-up call. You need to learn how to love yourself again. Stop letting your happiness be dependent on someone else's mood. The qualities that we value most, the standards on the top of our list, and the morals that mean the most to us shape our life. Some of the things you value most could be respect, communication, going on vacations with someone. However, someone else might have a different view of those things. They might consider texting you back 3 days later acceptable. When you feel like that is an unacceptable lack of communication. You might feel like following through on plans you have made with someone is a sign of maturity and integrity, where someone else may not really care or think twice about not following through. I believe there is a level of compromise, but I also think there is only so long we can live with things we don't really accept or respect. A partner should help you feel secure, not make you feel like you are constantly walking on eggshells. Even though people have different values, we all have the same needs. One of those needs is to be loved for who we really are, not who we pretend to be. We need someone with similar values to help us grow. If we feel as though someone lives by a different charter of values, we will always have a lack of understanding and frustration toward them. We may even feel that the person is slowing us down. I am not saying you should not be with someone who has different traits. What I am saying is to look hard at what values that person stands for in their life. The myth of never going to find someone again is just that, a myth. Don't be fooled in time. You will. Ex-partners plays a very important role in our destiny. They make us see what we definitely don't want. So what we do want become clearer. I think it's wasting our life being with someone that you don't really want to be with. We make ourselves believe that it's so hard to follow our truth, but it is much harder living a lie. Continually remind yourself of the greater plan and why you have actually decided to leave. Your mind will play tricks on you, but essentially that deep voice inside will not hesitate to be brutally honest. I personally directed my thoughts and feelings to the notion of being free from the emotional chains that were holding me back, and I would visualize living my own life. The hard reality is that one person usually gets hurt a bit more than the other, but you are not really hurting them in the long run. In time, they will know that because it's far more selfish being with someone that you don't really want anymore. You will be doing both of you a massive favor, and it's okay if they don't see it right away. If you have been on the receiving end of a breakup and have a broken heart, I have a message for you from my own experience. You are only really in a battle with yourself. You are more frustrated with the fact that you allowed yourself to be treated that way, upset with letting yourself go, losing who you are and sacrificing so much. But I applaud you for your courage to bear your heart on your sleeve. It's the only way to truly experience love. The challenge is within you, not against the other. The mission is to regain your own trust, get yourself back, and rebuild the beautiful relationship you once had with yourself. And it will happen. All the best on your journey to find an even higher plane of being, a deeper fulfillment, a better understanding of yourself. We should not have a partner to fill our emotional gaps with their presence. They should be there to complement the gaps we have already filled and help us find a way to fill the ones we have not. Docked. You want to come into my life. The door is open. You want to get out of my life. The door is open. Just one request. Don't stand at the door. You are blocking the traffic. Unknown. If you are just waiting to set sail, then you are at an absolutely great point. By making the right decisions and taking appropriate action, you will attract someone like never before. That dream person won't be a fairy tale so much as a reality waiting to happen. As I mentioned earlier, what you focus on you will be sure to find. If we say, for example, I don't want someone who is disrespectful, or I don't want someone who is selfish, then you can bet you are going to notice it everywhere. Remember back in the focus and find section discuss the reticular activating system in your brain. The RAS is always working, but in order to make it work in your favor, you have to direct your focus intelligently. We usually carry luggage from previous experiences that tarnishes any new ones. We will continue to focus all our energy on the particular traits that we now know we definitely don't want, but it still creates a block in front of us. How can we really be hugged if we have our guard up? Let's give an example. You once had a partner with whom you did not match too well, hence they are now an ex. Now you are thinking back and believing that all guys or girls are the same, and you hold on to that belief. You think about it, dwell on it, and more important, you reinforce it. You have an unconscious notion always ready to display itself with every person you meet. In truth, what hope do you really give someone new with that mindset? Regardless of how they might act, it will totally change the way you approach the situation. So the situation will change. Your tone of voice, the types of people you are attracting, your body language, and your snap judgment all play a vital role. It's as if you wait in anticipation for someone to mess up so you can prove yourself right. They could say or do something very innocent, but to you it's catastrophic because you will relate anything back to your belief. Then you wonder why the same challenges seem to arise and every person you meet has the same faults. I don't believe in coincidence. We attract things. However, even if you believe in it, don't you think it's gone past the point of coincidence? If there is a constant pattern, are you the one who needs to start making changes? On the flip side, you could shift your mindset. You could acknowledge that your ex was not what you wanted. So you now know what you don't want in a person. And more important, you now have clarity about what you do want. If you keep dwelling on what you don't want, all you do is replay your old relationship over and over again with everyone you meet. You might even turn bitter and cringe at the sight of a loving couple with that attitude. Who would want to be with you? You need to focus on the things you want in order to make the changes that will align with your dream partner. When you make change, the vibe you give off with screen. I am ready to embrace someone now, new. In saying that, sometimes we focus on what we want so hard it shows itself, and then we think it's too good to be true. Opportunities to grasp, and you really want display themselves many times in your life. But it is up to you to grasp them. All change starts with you. Attracting a dream partner. To create something different, you must do something different. Before we go to the grocery store, we should write down a list of what we want. If we don't, then it seems we just walk around and settle for things that we never wanted in the first place. We will buy some chocolate even though we went there to buy broccoli. We will get home, eat it, and then kick ourselves for buying it in the first place. Most important, we forgot the broccoli. If you are getting my drift, in order to get what we really want out of a life partner, we must make it real. We must have a clear indication of what we actually want in life to get it. All things manifested begins as a creation in our mind, which we should then seal by writing it down. This will allow you to refer back to that seat and remind yourself of what you really want. That will enhance the reality by providing more visibility. Just keep in mind that we don't always get what we want, but there are certain things we must have. Never settle for less than the must, but be lenient with the wants. I would not reject someone because they did not have the size 8 fit I envisioned, and I would not be taking my seat along to a date. Don't be like a strict school teacher marking the seat with every word they say. Things don't always turn out exactly the way you create them in your mind, but make sure the fundamentals are in place and you get the same feeling. The present does not always come wrapped with a ribbon, but that's your chance to go and put one on, because you are going to help that person grow as well. It should not be so much about what you can take from this person, but what you can give. Don't be one of those love hoppers. That's what I call them. Anyway, all they do is jump from one person to another, just hoping the right person will pop up one day. I am sure we all know someone who has barely broken up with one partner and is already with another. But you hear the same story, which is, I just can't find the one. Instead, have faith initially and use your power to be as certain as possible. Task 1. Clarification of what you want. Write down what you want and must have in a life partner, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. Write down everything. Remember, an example would be, I want someone who is respectful, not I don't want someone who is disrespectful. People always seem to write down what they don't want. Make sure you write down what you want. Now that you have written down your perfect match, ask yourself these questions. Why would they want to be with me? What would I have to do in order to attract someone like that? If I was that exact person on my list and went on a date with me, would I want to go out with myself? These questions demand that you are completely honest with yourself to get great answers and find areas for growth. If you have written down that you want someone who is fit and healthy, you can bet they are not going to want to be with someone who does not look after their body or who eats McDonald's every day. If you are out getting drunk all the time, but you have written down that you want someone who is in touch with their spiritual side. That's a conflicting belief. If you must have someone who is happy, would they want to be with someone who has permanent phone and does not enjoy life? These are just a few examples, but I am sure you get the drift. We try to make ourselves believe that we can get things we want without making changes first. We must gain the balance of what we want and what we are going to do to get it, because that will ensure our confidence as well. Task 2. Making change. Go back to your list and note what you can do in order to attract someone like that. Find what you need to change to align yourself with those attributes on the list. For example, if you want someone who has a cheerful demeanor, but you are in a permanently sore mood, then you may have a conflict. Work on your attitude. Task 3. Pick your environment intelligently. I would also take note of the environment in which you wish to meet someone. We must pick our environment intelligently so we can increase the chances of meeting that person on our list. If you want someone who has a lot of mental strength and is family oriented, I don't think you are going to find them at the local sports bar on a Tuesday night. If you want someone who is healthy, your chances are slim of finding them dining at KFC. You would have a much greater chance at the salad bar down the road, but I would not be taking the KFC bag along with you. Just a tip. My friend always wanted someone who was spiritual while being very social. He was going to nightclubs and getting drunk beyond repair every week. He would then ask me why he could not find anyone that matched what he wanted. Simple, I told him that if he goes to a nightclub, maybe he should not get drunk before looking for a girl who is a sober. He should stay sober. That way, he won't be attracting the opposite of what he is looking for, and he will be a lot more appealing to the girl who is sober. It's quite simple when you think about it, but that's exactly what you have to do. Think about it. If you want to find that person, make sure you are looking in the right spots. The last and most important aspect is to be patient. Never settle because of impatience. That will surely bring unhappiness and is not fair to the other person. Great things come to those who are great. In order to see something as great, you must understand greatness. Invest in your own growth first and make changes to become great within, and you will attract others accordingly. Fear of getting sick. Some people fear getting into a relationship because they believe they will be giving up their independence. We like to think we are independent, which means we don't depend on anyone or anything. Realistically, we are always depending on ourselves. So it means we are dependent creature. We depend on the grocery store to have our fruits and vegetables. We depend on people to buy our products. We depend on family and friends when we want comfort. We depend on the rain so we can drink water. So we are always dependent throughout our life. It is okay to depend on others because we are all in this together. The challenge is finding the balance between your independence and what role it has, and the role of your dependence. This is a common social challenge as many people have the idea that a relationship is restrictive. Again, if you attract what you must have in a person, then you will truly complement each other. Don't be scared to be dependent, but never base your complete happiness on another individual. You are the only one who can truly fulfill yourself. Sailing smooth. If you are already steady on the ship and have been for quite some time, keep doing what you are doing. You can email me and give me some pointers. I am always up for learning. There is always room for growth, though, so you can still use these tips and strategies from vibrant couples I spoke with. If you want your relationship to enter that calm area, This next part is also for you. Your average pupil. Couple 1. I asked this vibrant couple that attend the gym. I used to work at it, at if I could sit down and speak to them. They had recently gotten engaged and agreed to take part. I found out that their relationship had been on the rocks, but they were able to save it, and they said it was actually stronger now than ever. About 1 year before we spoke, they were about to separate over a miscommunication. I was surprised to hear that their relationship had nearly come to an end. The guy had put on over 40 pounds in a matter of months, and she felt as if she was caught in a dilemma. In a way, she was, because her physical attraction to him had started to decline, and she was concerned about his health. That might seem harsh, but being healthy and fit was something she wanted in her partner, so it's not wrong at all. The difference between a friendship and an intimate relationship is attraction, so it plays a major role. Looks might not always be the reason someone loses their attraction. It could be a shift in attitude, mood swings, inconsistency, or irrational behavior. She was also attracted to how in control and strong he was in his life, but that had diminished as well. Anger repressed can poison a relationship as surely as the cruelest words. Dr. Joyce Brothers. One day she decided to tell him that he should start getting healthy and fit again. Taking the advice the wrong way, he began to feel insecure and thought that she might cheat on him. He became paranoid and stopped trusting her even to go to the supermarket. She said it was killing her because she loved him to death and never wanted to hurt him. But she told him that she could not handle the lack of trust anymore and was close to leaving. This caused his pain threshold to hit the maximum. So he decided to finally sit down and face what she had to say. After communicating properly, he said in a sarcastic voice, I don't believe you are getting to do anything differently. The next day she went and bought them both a gym membership. That's what I call enormous initiative. They began going to gym twice a week, and now they are doing 5 sessions a week. It's a part of their life, and he assured me that he drags her out of bed most times now. They both look great, but most important, they feel great. He is showing with confidence. Their business profits have increased, and he told me that looking the way he had, he would have left him too. What a great way to share time together while also looking after their health. They motivate each other and have fun. They help each other grow and always try to find a way to push past their limits. Empowering tip. Always communicate how you feel and exercise together. Couple 2. This couple was about to get engaged, but they had hit a rough patch. Their relationship was built on trust, so they would spend a lot of time apart and with their friends. They noticed that their engagement with each other had declined, so they decided to sit down and communicate properly. They discovered that they had been seeing each other far less than they used to, and that their formerly frequent trips away together had been put on hold for quite some time. Both of them decided to get into action. They agreed to cut down on their separate social lives and save money for at least one weekend away from every 2 months. They did not say, we don't have the money, but instead took appropriate action to get the money. Going on trips with people has been proved to enhance many relationships and friendship alike. If you have ever been away with close friends, I'm sure you have experienced the bond that can form. Yes, some people do crash on trips. We are human, not perfect, but overall it does work. This couple assured me that they would never take each other's presence for granted again and that their effort really did get the right results. The tip here is to engage more with each other. Don't take the things for granted that once built your bond. Take action and do fun activities together. One guy I was coaching in a similar situation with his partner told me that he did not have the money for trips away, and then I found out that he was spending a minimum of $250 on alcohol every week. This is just an example. But seriously, how important is your relationship? Is it not more important than the beer you buy each week? Then it's not that important. If you are committed, you will make the money and find the time. There is always a way. Empowering tip. Go away with your partner or take up activities that are new to both of you. Do stuff that is fun and makes you feel great. Couple 3. We all know that when a woman asks for your opinion on clothing, she is most likely going to do it her own way anyway. But it's one of the great things we have to appreciate. When a woman tries on a new outfit that she just bought and asks her partner what he thinks, he did better say it's look good because he probably won't know the difference anyway. She will then ask again, causing her partner to rethink and say, yeah, but I like the other one too. Then she will say, why? What's wrong with this one? And her partner might reply, nothing, it's nice. I thought you just wanted my opinion. Then the final says, well, I like this one, so I am going to wear it. The partner is left divided. And just as they are walking out the door, the question comes, are you sure about this one? I personally love this because if women were not like that, guys would probably be walking around the streets naked. Women will willingly go shopping alone, but men don't stand a chance. We are too scared to bring something home that our partner does not like because we know we will be going straight back for a refund, not by force, but because we accept their expertise in the matter. And if they don't like it, then neither do we anymore. All men know they need a great woman, and the saying, we can't live without them, is definitely a true one. The last couple I spoke with have been married for 18 years and are still going strong. They have 3 kids and it's hard to see them without a smile. I desperately wanted to know what their secrets was, and they willingly agreed to give me some of their time. The first quality that this couple has always been adamant about his honesty. And they assured me that they try their hardest not to tread on each other's toes, but will always be there to help the other grow. The husband totally respects his wife's role and the wife respects his expertise in certain areas. Always willing to listen to each other due to their mutual respect. They are helping each other fulfill their dreams. They also let me know that both being highly involved in their children's lives has had a great impact on their marriage. They had never taken each other for granted and said it was their honest communication, no matter how much it could hurt at times, that has given them a long, strong relationship. In order to have a great relationship, it is imperative that we openly communicate how we are feeling on a constant basis. Keeping issues to ourselves could cause us to act selfishly and irrationally, and that's usually how the battle continues. Empowering tip: be honest, communicate properly on a daily basis, appreciate even the smallest things, respect each other's dreams, and always be willing to lend a helping hand. Now that's what I call success. Summing it up, these are just a few many couples that all say the same things. So many people attempt to save a relationship by giving material gifts. Your partner might not want a good Gucci bag or a new watch, but instead might want just a hug. They may not want a vacation or to be taken out for dinner or bought roses. They might want you to actually listen to what they have to say and be present. I would not go into business with someone who lacks communication skills. I would not build a friendship with someone who lacks them. And I definitely would not get into a relationship with someone who does not make the effort to communicate. Why would I? It reflects the lack of respect and structure they have in their own life. To engage with your partner is absolutely crucial if you want a fulfilling relationship. If only more people are actually engaged in their relationships before someone got down on one knee to propose, there might be fewer breakups. It's usually the things most people take for granted that build a strong relationship. There is no greater relationship than the one between those who are self-aware. Friendships are such a beautiful thing. It is where one soul trusts another to find comfort and liberation on this journey. This is the end of page 242, chapter 17. Now move to chapter 18. The importance of peers. Keep away from those who try to belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great make you believe that you too can make great. Mark Twain. I was in a pet store to buy my nephew a fish, and I explained to the worker that I could not have one that would grow too large because it was only going in a bowl. He assured me that I had nothing to worry about because most fish will only grow in proportion to the size of their environment and then stop. What a great analogy for the way humans seem to adapt to the people they associate with and the environment they surround themselves with on a daily basis. Everything in the world survives by adapting to its environment. The horny lizard in North America is one of many animals that have proved this. It mainly eats ants and has formed thick scales to prevent being bitten while having its platter of bugs. But the hunter can always be hunted. So when its worst enemy, a coyote, shows up, it needs to protect itself. Through evolution, this lizard has developed the ability to shoot blood out of its eye at its attacker. The blood amazingly has canine repellent chemicals in it. To irritate coyotes in particular, humans are no exception in being able to adapt to their environment. You don't have to be a genius to figure out that you will become like those you associate with. So it means you must choose whom you spend most of your time with intelligently. The reason is that the wrong choice of associates could prevent you from growing. What you feed your mind is what's going to come out of your life. If you feed it garbage all day, what results are you going to get? How are you going to feel? When I was 13 and getting myself into trouble with some other teens, my grandfather told me, when you hang around garbage, you start to smell, and I am sure we are all quite aware that some of the actions of men are nothing short of that garbage. It's one of the boldest but truest statements I have ever heard. I'm not telling you to go and dump your buddies, but I would be saying them in small doses if they contradict what you want to achieve. Some might need to be shown the door if your truth is telling you it's the best option. If you really want to learn Chinese but you hang around people who speak Spanish all day, which language are you more likely to pick up? There are moments in your life when you must act even though you cannot carry your best friends with you. Mahatma Gandhi. Most times we condition ourselves unconsciously with mental, verbal and physical action similar to those of our peers. We also do this to satisfy our urge for social significance and an acceptance. Sometimes we feel that if we make significant changes, our friends will think we are stupid or crazy. Guess what? Sometimes they do. We then have to ask ourselves if they are seeing our positive changes that way. Are they really reliable friends? Your dearest friends might also ridicule you, but they usually do it out of love, They feel as if they are losing you, or your positive change might make them feel insignificant by beginning to excel in your life. It may, it may finally show them how unproductive they are being in their own life. I understand that no one wants to do that to their friends, but you must acknowledge that it is no reason to stop living the best life you possibly can. At the end of the day, it's their proposal, personal issue, and all you can do is communicate properly. Some people find it most difficult to understand in the beginning, but they will eventually if they are real friends. I also love when so-called friends throw out the comment, you only live once. People say it in the face of smoking, drugs, or even criminal activity. Really, what they should be saying is, you only live once, so here go and kill yourself, start a habit, or do something that could mean spending the next 10 years in jail. I think nearly every time I have given in to that line, I have known that it was a mistake and I definitely paid the price. Stop expecting a closed-minded person to have an open-minded conversation. Do you ever wonder whether people are using that line for your benefit or for theirs? Something to think about, isn't it? An intelligent response would be, yes, I only live once, so why would not I live the best way I know how? Doesn't that just make a bit more sense? You might think that the options are fun in the face of that comment, but I ask you to have a deeper look and you will realize that what you might think is fun could actually be causing you emotional and mental torment. I often hear people complaining about being pressured into doing something they did not want to do. It's a pretty pathetic excuse because they are only attempting to avoid their own accountability. They should be taking responsibility and finding out how to strengthen their mind. You are the one who has to answer. To protect when you lay your head on the pillow. Why have not I achieved? Why did I do what I did? Why am I in a distressed state right now? No one but you can find answers that will satisfy you. So learn to take charge of your life and ignore outside influences that you know will make you doubt yourself. A real friend is one who walks in when everyone else walked out. Walter Winsel, who really cares about the life, about what the people who judge the great changes you are making think. I am sure they are not quick to lend you a helping hand on your journey. The people who ridicule your productivity the most are the ones who are jealous, have no clue about life, and if you look carefully, are the ones living miserably with no sense of direction. Have you ever noticed how negative people spend most of their time with other negative people? Do you want to stop following your dreams and end up like them? I don't think so. Those who don't believe in you don't believe in themselves. As I mentioned earlier, I was teased, ridiculed, and told I was crazy on a daily basis just for loving life more than I used to. They said my ideas would never work, but they were soon very surprised. My vision and passion were far too strong to let anyone stand my way. Yes, it crossed my mind to stop many times, but that's when you must be at your strongest. And when you get past one hurdle, the next one seems that little bit easier. Instead of curling up in a ball and giving up, I used it as fuel to drive me even further and create an even deeper hunger. Sometimes people take the great things you are doing as a personal attack on their own life. Do not let their insecurities dishearten you. Great people construct monuments with the stones critics throw at them. Robin Sharma. I discussed my change with a close friend one day, and this was his reply. I know you are making change, and I am happy for you. But I did prefer you did not discuss all this stuff with me. I'm always here for you, though. I respected that so much, and he is still a friend. Because it was his choice not to hear about the lessons I was discovering with myself. I did not storm off and get angry, but really appreciated that he was honest, and eventually he did come and ask for advice, and I was more than happy to help. Tell your friends about your change, but don't try to force your beliefs onto others, because that will most likely send them the other way. If you are making great changes in your life, it will be evident to those around you, and they will come and ask you how you did it. If you have modeled any successful person, you would see that they were always willing to pick their peers carefully. If you wanted to become a great painter, then you would not hang around someone who is good at the drums and try to speak to them about how to paint. Hang drum and get advice from those in the same industry. Don't be shy about going straight to the top or to the best person you know in the field. A true friend is someone whom you can act like a complete idiot in front of and not be the slightest bit embarrassed. Try your hardest to keep this friendship. It is the closest we get to being a child again. When I was doing personal training, I would notice that most times when two overweight people would sign up together, they would not last very long. On the other hand, when I saw someone who was overweight train with someone who was fit, they would soon be looking quite fit. That's not being harsh at all. I am just stating what I saw. I got into that industry because I care about people's well-being. So the last thing I would do is ridicule someone. It's just the way it is. And if you want to be a certain way, then you must start associating with it. If you want to achieve something great, pick the brains of those who you know have a clear history of achieving. Ask them what their secrets are. When asking, be humble, enthusiastic, and keen to learn. If you go up to those people with a big ego, you can bet they will probably show you the door. Let them know that you are driven and will do anything to learn the trades. Even if you are a millionaire but having trouble breaking the barriers of hitting your next 10, ask someone who has. Read up on other success stories. They were probably in the same predicament at your stage but found a breakthrough. It does not matter how advanced we think we are. There is always someone out there we can learn from. When you associate with some people who are great at what they do, you are forced to step up to the greatness. It's the same as adapting to our environment. We eventually learn to live that particular way to keep up. In business and networking, be humble but never gullible. Associate yourself with people of good quality, for it is better to be alone than in bad company. Booker T. Washington. Thank you very much for listening. This is the end of part 4, page 248 and chapter number 18. Thank you very much. Who says you can't? You do. Fifth step. Create a healthy physical existence. Chapter 19. Start that engine. In order to see how the best of the best perform physically, you have to look at the best. Most top professional athletes have a personal athletic coach as well as a personal mind coach. The ones who don't have a mind coach do it themselves. But there is one thing for certain. Strengthening the mind is critical to their success. If these top athletes understand the importance of both mind and body, why don't we implement this in our physical training every day? The lack of this is the reason some stop experiencing and others never begin. People train their body, but they forget to train the powerful force that is driving it. Most people I have trained make one crucial mistake. When they think about the body they want or their desired level of fitness, they feel depressed because they don't have it now. As for the people who actually achieve it, they use the same vision as an empowering motive to get going. Don't be upset when visualizing your dream body. Embrace it and feel good because you know you are going to get there. If you don't respect your body, it will not respect you on your journey through life. Our body is the ship that carries us through this journey and it must be held in regard. Would you put a hole in the hull of a boat you are traveling on? Of course not, because by Leonardo da Vinci. How shocked would you be if you watched on the news that someone had deliberately done this? We may be very moved, yet we continue to wreck this beautiful piece of artwork called the human body. Our body is us. It is not separate. Our soul is one with our body and mind. So when one is out of balance, the other two are sabotaged and something is destined to break through. Wake up and live. Motivation is what gets you started. Ritual is what makes it habit. Our body cries out to us in a number of ways, owing to lack of exercise or an unhealthy diet. We have arches, aches, and pains, feel drained, and get sick on a regular basis. To live a balanced life, our body demands that we respect it. I am well aware that people have different lifestyle and wake up at different times. Being an author, I am not always up early. At times I get inspiration at 2 a.m. and have to write it down. But when I do wake up, I don't drag myself through my day. Once I am up, I am up. Do you think highly successful people drag their way out of bed, holding that uninspired mood throughout the whole day? No way. They begin their day without too much deliberation and switch on instantly. Have you ever noticed that when you are tired, you stretch and yawn in slow motion? This is our body temperature being cooled down. And when our body temperature regulates, our muscles receive massages that tell them it's now time to relax and to go to sleep. When we finish exercising, we should do static stretches, slow and relaxed, to rest our muscles. For example, sitting down and doing a hamstring stretch for 15 seconds. These stretches are done in slow motion. Our muscles need to recover, so static stretches are ideal for this type of rest. Here is the big question. Why on earth are we moving in the same slow motion in the morning as we would before we go to bed or after we train? Waking up is not a time to let your body rest. It's a time for it to be active. If you watch any professional sports team nowadays, you will notice that they do very quick movements and fast breathing to warm up their body. This practice is called dynamic stretching and it has now fully replaced static stretching before games. The last thing athletes want is for their muscles to rest. If they do, they are more prone to injury and their performance suffers. Only after games do they perform static stretches to rest their muscles. If you think about it, it makes far more sense to trigger the muscles you want to use rather than to put them to sleep beforehand. If you want to use your body like the best, then you must model the best. This is what top trainers teach and professionals do all around the world. If you want to be wide awake within 30 seconds, this is the key. This task has never failed me. Wide awake. As soon as you hear the alarm clock go off, just straight out of bed, open your eyes as wide as you can and begin taking deep breath in a quick motion. While breathing, do dynamic stretches. Move your body in any way. Just make sure you do it fast. An example would be windmills with your arms, star jumps, or touching your toes. If you want, you can also take one deep breath in through your nose and exhale three short breaths out through your mouth while doing sharp movements with your body. You can add noise for optional performance if you are not going to wake anyone in the anyone up in the process. I recommend doing that as well. If you think this does not work, prove it yourself by trying it the next time you wake up. Deep, quick breaths combined with doing fast bodily movement has been scientifically proved to start your engine. It gets your metabolism in gear, triggers your muscles, and ignites the cycle of energy creating energy. The only way to actually produce more energy in your system is to kickstart it with energy. If you are being slack, you will feel the lack of energy. This takes no more than 30 seconds to wake up, but 3 to 5 minutes for max performance. Go have 2 glasses of water and read your appreciation list, which takes 5 minutes. This morning ritual will take about as long as a snooze cycle will shift your energy for the whole day. This should be done before you train, especially if you feel like you want to skip it for the day. Like the old way of turning on a light bulb, it requires kinetic energy. You must turn that wheel and set it into motion first. 10 tips to a successful fitness regimen. There are some broad steps for success in getting the most out of physical training. Everyone enjoys different things and you should really mix it up every 6 to 8 weeks to shock your body. But here are things that should be a must for every person. Tip 1. Get started. Get yourself a personal trainer if you can afford one, even for half an hour a week, so you can get some idea of how to train properly. Make sure they are good. References are usually the best way to find them. It's a pretty good indication when your friend calls you up, puffing and says, "Phew, they are really good." For now, just start being active and take immediate action. Walk, skip, run or hop. I don't care. Just do something, regardless of what you may be thinking. There are no excuses. Most aches and pains are caused by people's lack of action, not because of their action. Tip 2. Make sure you have fun. Tell your trainer not to get overexcited and kill you in the first session. You will get scared off and probably find the energy to run home as fast as you can and never return. Push your body past the comfort zone, but remember that everything in life is progression. Tip 3. Music. Music is great when training. If classical music usually puts you to sleep, then I would advise not to listening to it when training. Listen to something upbeat or that pumps you up. Tip 4. HIIT. This stands for high intensity interval training. Without getting too technical, HIIT has proved to be the best form of fat burning. An example is running for 1 minute, then power walking for 5 minutes, and repeating those for 30 to 60 minutes depending on your fitness level. Tip 5. Tabata training. This form of HIIT is quick, constantly increases in duration and intensity, and produces absolutely amazing results. Most Tabata exercises can even be done at home, so there is no excuse for not doing them. The basis of Tabata training is 4 minutes of intense interval training or circuit training. Here is an example. Get 2 fairly heavy dumbbells and something to step up on. Second, step up while lifting the dumbbells above your head in one motion. Step down while lowering the dumbbells to your side. Third, repeat for 20 seconds. Then rest for 10 seconds. Repeat 7 more times for a total of 8 sets. What you have is a total of 4 minutes of workout time. Tabata training can be done with a number of different exercises, and the idea is to use an exercise that gets the whole body involved, or at least the major muscle groups. Tabata training can be done with barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, or just body weight exercises. It would be a little difficult for me to try to explain all the different types of Tabata workouts. So I advise going on YouTube or browsing the internet to find plenty of visual examples. Tabata training was developed by Izumi Tabata at the National Institute of Fitness and Sports in Kanoya, Japan. The institute did a study over a 6-week period comparing the effects of moderate intensity endurance training, aerobics, and high endurance intermittent training. Tabata training intervals on VO2 max, the maximum rate of oxygen consumption during training, and anaerobic capacity. To cut to the results of the study, the moderate intensity group training program produced a significant increase in VO2 max of about 10%, but had no effect on anaerobic capacity. The high intensity group improved their VO2 max by about 14%, while anaerobic capacity improved by 28%. Tip 6. Mind on your muscle. If you focus your mind on the particular muscle you are training during the exercise, it is triggered far more effectively and hence enhances strength. Example: focus on your chest muscles when doing bench presses. Tip 7. Think big. Training time is a great time to think over your success. In your mind, reinforce empowering statement. During my jog or power walk, I would repeat the word "I am strong" in my mind the whole way through. When my mind would wander, I would redirect and focus back on that statement. Tip 8. Straight back. Don't ever sacrifice great posture for heavier weights when lifting of any sort. As soon as you lost your good posture, you lost technique. This means you are not doing the exercise correctly, and it increases the chances of injury. This you also stand for walking and running. Shoulders should be retracted and chin should be parallel with the ground. Tip 9. Vision. Set up a compelling vision and don't lose sight of it. See the body you want. Feel being beauty, healthy and fit, and consume yourself with its presence right now. Visualize every day and experience the emotion of success, and it will motivate you like mad. Embrace it as a reality. Get excited and go and get it. Nothing is stopping you but you. Tip 10. Step it up. When you start feeling too comfortable with the exercise you are doing, push yourself once again. A term that is widely used in the fitness industry for this point is plateau stage. It is said that this is a time when people feel as if they are standing still and not reaching new levels. In my experience with clients, this usually happens after 8 weeks of repeating the same program. It's essential that we keep the same program for at least 6 weeks and then mix it up. This keeps it fun and makes us hit new peaks. And when you feel that your program is starting to get a little easy, step up the intensity. Always combine weight training and cardio exercises in your program and exercise at least 3 days a week to start off. Drink plenty of water and less caffeine. None is ideal. You need to stay hydrated during the day. Something that is also very beneficial for the functioning of our body is an alkaline enhancer, which you can purchase from a health shop. I recommend a product that contains spirulina, chlorella, and barley grass. which should also be 100% vegetarian. It usually comes in a powder that you mix with water. Himalayan salt mixed with water works the same way. If you own an aquarium, you know that if you do not get the pH level correct in the water, your fish will die. Your body is also made up of water, which requires you to gain a balanced pH level. This is a process where the acidity and alkalinity in your body reaches 7.35. You can tell what you are currently at by getting a simple mouth swipe from your local pharmacy. Too much acid in your body means your health will suffer. So start balancing. Task. What beliefs would you have to build about exercise and your diet to live a healthy life? Why do you want to be healthy and fit? Question mark. What does your health means to you? What is it worth? Focus on how much you are benefiting from doing this. Never think of the sacrifices because there are no sacrifices when it comes to getting your health in check. Only benefits. This is end of chapter 19, page number 258 of the book. Chapter 20. Losing weight versus becoming healthy and fit. An active mind cannot exist in an inactive body. General George S. Patton, Jr. If your mind is set on the idea of losing weight, you are focused on a negative notion, and that builds a constant fear. As long as you think of wanting to lose weight, that's all you will ever want to keep doing. We are inundated with marketing campaigns that show such an ideal right in our face. We all know that fear is the number one seller, and what better way to instill it than based on appearance. In the instance of having a weight loss mindset, we surround ourselves with the word loss, loss, and loss. We get into the belief of losing and never seem to be winning, which is why most are never satisfied. The obsession with losing weight becomes a never-ending story. The majority of desirable people shown in magazines are malnourished, airbrushed, or take extreme health risks in the hope of getting work. Having been in the fashion industry, personal training, and now coaching has given me a fair amount of insight into models and other media-related personnel. I have met extraordinarily good-looking people and high-profile models throughout my life, and some of them have the biggest insecurities with the way they look. Believe it or not, some are also the unhappiest and most unfulfilled individuals I have ever met. Don't get me wrong, looking good is great, but you will never think you look great unless you feel great about your choice of lifestyle. You go from being happy one day to being upset because you want to lose a little more weight off your right butt cheek, or your right arm is smaller than your left, and this craziness continues on forever. In so many cases, it consumes someone's whole life to the point that they forget how to live. Full focus on feeling FFF is the key to success in any aspect. We have to shift our mindset to focus on being healthy and fit. It's about the feeling, not the visual appearance to others. Everyone has different opinions, so you are going to be pretty unsatisfied if you are just doing it for that reason. When you start getting a little wrinkly or your body does not seem to keep in shape as well as when you are younger, are you going to hate yourself? That's why this world is filled with appearance challenge. Because we believe that feeling great starts with outward appearance. Your body should be loved for the highly technical machine it is. It deserves respect for housing the only thing that is ever permanent, your soul. When we exercise, We must amplify the importance of how it's making us feel, because that's what keeps us motivated. Reverse looking good than feeling good, to feeling good than looking good, because that's the key to remaining happy. Bathroom skills are something that I believe should be smashed with a baseball bat, as they should not be the measure of your success. First of all, if you are training, you will be building muscles, which weighs more than fat. Scales can definitely screw with your mind, so I suggest you get rid of them. You are not going to see results overnight if you go for looks, but you will immediately notice results when going for feeling. A bodybuilder I knew had an amazing physique, but all I would hear him do was complain about his body. To him, there was always something wrong with it, and his appearance soon became an obsession. It took control over every area of his life. He was this. He saw his relationship diminish, his finances go down, and his emotional state hit its lowest point ever. We are all imperfect, if you wish to look at it that way. But I like to see it as we are all perfect. Our imperfections make us perfect. Because if we were all the same, this world would be pretty boring. We all have different perceptions of what we find appealing. But the point of feeling great makes you appealing to everyone. Your glow is contagious, and you will notice that when you go for the feeling, the physical shapes comes rapidly along with it. I have personally trained hundreds of clients, and the ones who go for the looks to make them happy never last or are unfulfilled. Those who go for the feeling acknowledge that being healthy and fit is a lifestyle to drive them to their peak and help them attain that balance for a great life. Losing weight is an activity that drives us crazy. Crazy. Striving to be healthy and fit is a lifestyle that lasts forever. This is the end of chapter 20, part 5th, and page number 261. Thank you very much for listening. Now move to 6th step. Awaken your mind, unchain your heart. Chapter 21. The Infinite Human Spirit. There is more to you than meets the eyes. It's your soul. I can't see it, and neither can you. Your greatness lies in the spirit that waits patiently within your being. If you have yet to tap into it or listen carefully to what it tells you in the face of decisions, that's the reason your dreams seems so far from ever coming into existence. I have had many people tell me they don't know if they have a soul, and others who think they might but have no real grounds for their belief. I would just like to sum it up the best way I can. We see our human body like a machine. The brain thinks and visualizes through chemical responses. The heart pumps blood, and our lungs help us breathe. From the outside, it appears very technical, scientific, and easy to explain our physical existence. But have you ever wondered who is observing the surroundings you see with your eyes? Who is controlling your machine body? Who is aware that you are thinking? Look around the room and think about who is actually directing that focus. We cannot just get up off the chair and walk automatically. We are obviously being commanded by something who calculates what you are going to say before you of confusion. And that's exactly right. Me is only your physical existence. I is your spirit that is in control. We can't see it, but we can feel it every day. And it's the voice we are in constant conversation with. Thank you very much for listening.